Hi everyone, it's me Abdul with a new topic of psychology and shame behind color complexion, shadeism, and intraracial concept of white skin attributed to attractiveness, at least in subcontinent Pakistan and India. So it's very important to do deep introspection about our own subjective psyche. So what's subjective psyche? Our own subjective perception on anything is what shapes the reality. Anything in existence, an ideology, or any concept is seen through the fog of subjective lens. Like in simple words, how I see everything is how reality is shaped for me. It's very important to note that one sided consciousness can be very, very bad in terms of psychology. When people don't accept their shadows, so what's shadow? It's the inferior feeling or quality what we tend to hide or repress, or which seems as a threat or alarm to the conscious ego. So all the shadow qualities they are manifested in a very destructive and unconscious way. Similar is the case with the shadow of color complexion or shadeism or the sense of judgment of a person with darker color. So it is manifested in various unconscious and unknowing ways, and even the effects of those are seen in ourselves in a very self-destructive way, like women striving hard with their skin, with the fairness and whitening creams, and those with the less fair undergo depression and anxiety, which is often very fatal. So why do I'm using the word conscious and unconscious with the shame and psychology behind color complexion and shadeism? That's because I consider, at least I myself consider that we all are, trust me, at least among intra-racial racist group. Why that's is so? Because at some point we prefer the beauty or we attribute the attractiveness and beauty to the white skin. We see that all around. We see that everywhere. So it's better to accept that shadow part of yourself. I explained what does shadow mean previously. So it's better to accept that inferior feeling within you or inferior quality within you, which is a threat to your conscious ego. So accept that. Don't go into denial that I'm not a racist and I don't prefer white skin, or I'm not concerned with the skin being fair or white. That's because that's not true. I mean, there might be people, but if at least taking a statistical analysis in subcontinent, we'll get a survey for sure that would state that people attribute beauty or attractiveness to white skin, right? So it's better to be conscious of that shadow so that people can work on that and they can move towards self growth. So all right. So the next thing is social and cultural history studying anthropology and colonization. Like there are many scholars of anthropology and psychology. They believe that shadeism was a product of colonization. Why? Because to maintain the cloud of whiteness and are established on the notion that, darker skin represents savagery, irrationality, ugliness, inferiority, and which was believed to have started because the in the old time the slave owners would use skin color to allot jobs on the plantations. That's during the time of colonization all over the world. So it didn't stop there. It has been inherited within our genes. So one more thing, let's consider an example of British colonization in subcontinent, right? So we knew that there was white supremacy over the people of some continent, Pakistan and India at that time, and the people of white skin was attributed with a dominant group, right? So don't you think that that specific time of colonization was also the period of internalization of white supremacy in our minds, and that obviously transferred from one generation to the other generation and so on, that it just came towards us to the newer generation. So it's very important to study anthropology and colonization and to be conscious of the shadow and to realize why people suffer from that. So the next point is how it's internalized. All right. So, I mean, have you ever seen any news reporter or actress in subcontinent in Pakistan, especially, or India, especially with the darker complexion, or an actress with a darker complexion? I think the majority would be with a fair or a whiter complexion, right? So at least majority. I'm not saying about all, but majority, yes. So that creates a pseudo criteria sense of white supremacy among the growing generation, which strengthens their internalization and of being fair, right? So being fair or white would be getting more privilege with everything, right? Okay, not with everything, but at least in majority of things, in film industry, in media, right? And also, like, people look for. There's a term called Eurogamy, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. So people look for the spouses on the basis of their color, and that's being followed everywhere in subcontinent, at least. In I'm I'm from Pakistan, so I know that that's been practiced there, right? So that's been a cause of depression among many girls, mostly, and men, but women are the ones who suffer more because of that. So women are constantly bombarded by the images of perfection through media, social media, and the images of beauty are often color coded with Eurocentric beauty idols, right? So the self-esteem of people get directly linked with color complexion. The self-esteem increases as the beauty, which is unfortunately perceived by color, gets better. So there are obviously privileges of whiteness, fairness imposed on people, and unfortunately they get internalized. And the one with the darker complexion strive using fairness creams, and they strive harder in a self-destructive way, and they undergo depression and anxiety. So the yes, so the idea of race is directly related to the value of whiteness or lightness, is how colorism operates. So that's how it gets internalized. There's also a term called newspeak. It was introduced, I believe, by George Orwell in his book 1984. So he said that he used the term newspeak, how media and news using certain languages alter the mind of people. Right? I believe that term applies here and how things get practiced. So does the privilege of white skin is more than the darker complexion? Obviously, that's what I discussed before, that there's obviously the privilege, at least practice in subcontinent. So let me tell you one more interesting thing. Being in US and UK from last 6 years, I can tell that there's a conspiracy going on with the cream industry or with the cosmetic industry, and and what's that? In Pakistan, you would see the creams, like the labels would be stated as whitening creams. In UK and US, you would see the creams with anti-wrinkle and anti-aging, because people in Europe and North America are obsessed with anti-aging creams and anti-wrinkles, and in subcontinent in Pakistan, India, people are obsessed with whitening creams. That's how the cosmetic industry is imposing such a vulnerable thing on young generation. So what I suggest is, please, for God's sake, do study your socio-cultural history, anthropology, and the concept of colonization, how it affects everything, and at least everyone, including me. We should be conscious of the shadow that somehow we have absorbed or internalized that kind of racism in our society. Thank you. So, to help better understand the concept, I have invited few speakers to share their experiences on the topic. So, let's see what they have to say on this. So, thank you for coming and let's see.
In my opinion, Pakistan is obsessed with fair skin when it comes to female appearance. We equate fair skin with happiness, good rishtas, and a fairy tale life. This stems from colonialism and the thought that rulers or the rich are fair skinned, that they can afford to stay indoors while those of a lesser caste or of lesser fortune have to work outdoors and therefore they are of a darker complexion. For most Pakistanis, a darker complexion is not even encompassed in the beauty spectrum. While pushing so heavily for a fairer Pakistan, we imply that those women who do not have or do not try to reach a fairer complexion can never achieve happiness or happily ever after. In fact, a good rishta, because that's what we equate for happily ever after. Never mind their academic or their social achievements. This promotes the multi-billion-dollar industry for fairer skin because it makes vulnerable young women even more susceptible to fall for the over-the-top fairness cream ads and the invasive procedures by making them feel that they are inferior and less beautiful. Women with darker complexions have to work harder in developing their personalities to make up for their appearance. These young girls start suffering from low self-esteem and a lack of confidence. As a Pakistani American, this mindset never clicked for me. In the West, we are so used to a culture of tanning creams and beach days to achieve the perfect tan. So why do our countries try so hard to escape a complexion that the Americans try to achieve? I'm still dragged into this fair skin bias with comments and suggestions about my complexion. I've heard comments like, "But you live in America, you should be fairer," as though somehow being American should free me from my roots and my natural complexion.
Assalamu alaikum. First of all, I'd like to thank Abdul Rahman for allowing me to share my reviews and whatever knowledge that I have on this crucial, important topic of shadeism, colorism, which ultimately, of course, leads to major catastrophes. First off, there is a research that I was reading by Harvard University, and it states that many children going through adolescence stage feel that they are somehow treated less and are regarded less because of their color, because of their skin color, which is why they prefer a brighter skin, which is why they prefer a lighter skin, and even they attempt to use products. I think where the problem is the culture, because culture by times and times and times overrides the religion, because when culture becomes corrupt, it overshadows the religion. People no longer follow religion as they do culture, even though they tell you that they're religious people. But many of the weddings that you see, there are traditional things that are cultural, not religious, but they're doing it. So definitely the thing about colors and all these things has to do with culture. And obviously I cannot forget the issues with women, that the marriage proposal that have been rejected by people because simply a woman is not of a fair skin, or a woman is not of a brighter skin, which is pretty stupid to say, because because out of all human qualities, out of all personality qualities, you're looking for colors. I mean, really? So there's of course an on and off thing going on. Luckily, the West doesn't have that. I mean, we are in a far more deeper catastrophe than West, and people somehow think that the United States have a problem with racism. We have more racism problem than the United States. It is simply that the people speak out there. It is recorded. Simply because it is not recorded in our society, it doesn't get much attention. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I think it exists, and I think it exists in a far more dangerous level than in United States, of course. But I'm not trying to discredit whatever is happening in of course, United States, because that is a major separate issue, and which luckily is being highlighted by folks. So I'd like I don't know if I was pretty clear on my points, but hopefully I covered some areas. And
In my opinion, shadeism is a more prevalent issue than racism. Even in Asia, among all the Asians, complexion of skin matters to the extent that I believe the most selling products in cosmetics are the whitening creams and capsules or whatever that can make you look fairer. Once a friend told me that in her childhood, when she was in first or second grade, uh, she was very much excited about playing a role in a tableau, and she was the top scorer of her class. And her teacher asked her to play the role of darkness, saying that you won't be needing any makeup because she was a she had a comparatively darker complexion among the children. And this is so pathetic and so hurtful for her to listen to this. And then even playing that role because the teacher is a member of our society, or for a child, he's the one he can't say no to. But this is how the most respectable members of our society are inculcating a sense of inferiority among children. And these are not only teachers, parents, sisters, relatives, friends, everyone is doing this, not just the strangers. Among sisters, parents compare them on the basis of their complexions, on the basis of their looks. Relatives saying, "बाकी तो इतनी प्यारी है, ये किस पे चली गई है?" All these things are so hurtful and so damaging. All these things are affecting every soul at a psychological level. This affects the self confidence, self esteem in an individual. And I would say that a girl listening to all such comments and bearing them with strength, and this, all her talents gets hidden under the shame imposed on the girl by the society for the color of her skin. As you have seen, this is so very common. Everyone wants a fairer and beautiful wife for her son, and every man wants a beautiful and fair and white wife just because they want fairer grandsons, maybe grandchildren. This thing is very damaging. This is damaging the females as well as the males at the psychological level. I don't know how can we how can we just end this or make people aware to the extent that they would know that how much shame and inferiority and I don't know what it is causing to the people they are saying such things to. Yeah, I mean, you are telling me that I don't fit your requirements, your standards of beauty. This is insane. This must be addressed at a global level, I would say. This must be addressed, this must be communicated that these things doesn't matter.